Welcome, Toastmasters from District 31 and elsewhere to the District 31 Club Close-Up Series, a video interview series where I interview clubs from District 31. We learn about their clubs, the great things that they're doing to engage their existing members, and how they're recruiting new ones. I'm your host, Christian Austin, the 2023-2024 District 31 Public Relations Manager. And for today's episode, we are going to be talking with JP Toastmasters, a distinguished club last year, earning 6 out of 10 Distinguished Club Program points. If you're wondering what the Distinguished Club Program is, look it up on Toastmasters International. It's a way that clubs can help members and themselves as a club achieve their goals and earn points and be recognized by Toastmasters International in the process of doing that. JP Toastmasters is a community club. And what does that mean as a community club? What that means is that anybody is free to come visit the club and join the club. There's other clubs that are advanced clubs where you need some education prerequisites, and closed clubs or corporate clubs that have company requirements that only certain people within the company can join. But as a community club, which JP Toastmasters is, they're welcoming to anybody who wants to come visit their club, regardless of skill level, regardless of occupation, regardless of interest. They were founded in July of 2017, so a newer club in District 31. And they stagger in-person and virtual meetings. They have meetings on the second Monday and the fourth Monday of the month. So if you are interested in either getting better in person, or you say, I just need to get better virtually, they have an option for you that you can choose that fits your lifestyle, that fits the skills that you want to develop. And there'll be more information at the very end of the video and in the show description notes about how you can reach out to the club and find about joining their in-person or virtual meeting. Today, we are going to be doing a panel discussion with the officers of JP Toastmasters. This is going to be a chat where I will act as the moderator. I'll go through a series of questions, and then the officers joining us tonight will give a response to the question. When we're done with each of the questions, we'll move on to the next one until we get to the end. And as I said, you'll find out more about how you can join JP Toastmasters. But before we get started, make sure to get out those notepads and that pencil, because you're going to want to take some notes down for the best practices of JP Toastmasters to bring back to your club. But before we get started, let's learn a little more about the officers of JP Toastmasters. And I'd like to start with JP Toastmasters President, Sinjin. Sinjin, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm St. John Smith. I go by Sinjin, and I've been here at JP Toastmasters for, 3 or 4 years, I would say. I'm retired, formerly an architect, and have been kind of delighted to work on my speaking skills through Toastmasters. So.
You came to the right organization and you stepped into that leadership role pretty quickly too, Sinjin. 3 to 4 years in the club, and now you are the president at the head of JP Toastmasters.
We're a fast-moving club. If someone's
That's
willing
right.
and active as I have been, advancement comes quickly.
That's it. If you step up to the challenge, you advance quickly, just as Sinjin said. Moving on next, I will go in the counterclockwise direction on my window. I don't know what you're going to be seeing, but Dana, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Christian. I'm Dana Baida. I've been a Toastmaster for about 14 years now, and a member of JP Toastmasters since the very beginning. As you said, since 2017. Actually, I was part of the process of getting the club started before 2017. And I'm happy to serve as the club's treasurer and secretary this year.
Thanks for sharing that, Dana. 14 years, a veteran Toastmaster we have, even though the club is only founded in 2017, as Dana said. She was part of Toastmasters organization before that, and she helped charter the club. So if there is an area that does not have a club that you're in, you could do what Dana did, and you could help charter a new Toastmasters club in that area. Thanks for sharing that, Dana. Moving on, last but not least, Kristen, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kristen Culver. I have been in Toastmasters about 11 years, and I'm actually in two clubs. I have an advanced club, but JP Toastmasters is where I call home. I joined just this past summer and jumped right into leadership because I can't help but give back. And I really love being the VP of membership for this club. I get to be the Walmart greeter. I'm one of the first people see when they come in the door, and I'm the first person who responds when they inquire online about the club.
8 points, Kristen. The VP of membership, the first to respond when somebody reaches out and said, what is JP Toastmasters all about? Kristen is there. She said she's the Walmart trademark greeter, or the JP Toastmasters greeter. I guess that's synonymous of making sure those guests are welcome when they come to the club. And the other thing that Kristen said, she's a member of an advanced club as well. As I mentioned in the beginning, there are advanced clubs in the district, and you don't have to belong to just one club. You can belong to as many clubs in the district as you'd like to. But as Kristen said, she calls JP Toastmasters home, and she's going to be telling us more about that this evening with a nice heart as well. Moving on now to our panel discussion. I'd like to open up with a question about the club. My question to you is, how would you describe the club? If there was a motto, what would it be?
JP Toastmasters is about neighbors coming together and providing each other a friendly and supportive environment where we help each other grow.
Friendly and supportive environment, very important, as we just talked about, meeting those guests at the door and making sure that they're welcome. How would you track your club success? If through a distinguished club program or a success plan, how do you do that? And can you describe your process in tracking members' success and club success?
I can take that on. So we use the metrics that Toastmasters has available for us. What is it, distinguished club? I'm drawing a blank on that. That's it. Okay, I see Kristen shaking her head. The veteran who knows all the answers. But we have a table. We understand where people are in their path. We have a vice president of education who's not able to be with us tonight, who knows how people are doing. We've set goals early in the year for people's advancement, and we meet monthly as officers and take a look at that, see how that's going, and make our best efforts to make sure everyone is moving ahead.
8 points. I heard 3 points there. There's planning, where you plan out what each individual is going to do as far as their education during the year. You track during the year to see if those people are meeting their goals. And then at the very end, you're signing off on those goals if they have achieved them, because you are following the club distinguished club program to get those points. So 3 things to do that JP Toastmasters is doing to track club and member success.
Yeah, and I'd say also, just to go back to what Donna was saying about being a kind of a community club, we're very much focused on supporting each other and helping people learn as we do it. So I'm sure you'll get into this later on, but we have a pretty robust mentor program and are circling around often to make sure people are feeling supported by us. And it comes up in our meetings, and we develop some special tools that have helped with that as well.
Well, Sinjin, now that you mentioned the mentorship program, why don't we talk a little about the membership program? Can you describe how it operates and what value it adds to your members?
I would say it's just kind of like, I'd say it reflects the general character of the way we present within our club. So when you come to a meeting, you'll see a lot of encouragement of everyone there. Even if you're a visitor, we are really encouraging you. We're talking to you before the meeting formally begins, and we're talking to you at the end. And we are very free to invite people to step up for table topics. So that's all very much in the mix as we go.
There a concept of senior members? So you mentioned guests, getting those guests involved, getting newer members involved, getting them in table topics early. Is there a concept of a member literally being a mentor of another member in the club, specifically for that?
When you become a member, we make an effort to make sure that everyone has a mentor. I'd say that is one of our goals, to make sure that everyone does have a mentor and people know who they can go to if they have a question along the way. It isn't going to wait till the next meeting. We might bump into someone online or there at the club at our clubhouse. So yeah, that's really what we hope will happen.
And one of the reasons that people do have mentors, if they're inexperienced, they don't necessarily know what their role is, how to give a speech, what they should be doing during club meetings. As you said, they have that question, and if they have nobody to reach out to, they may feel that I'm not really part of this club and maybe I don't want to be attending the meetings anymore, and you end up losing members. So by having that strong mentor-mentee relationship where somebody can turn with their questions and get them answered, they feel part of the club atmosphere and the club community as well, as mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and I'd say it's not something that's just for new members. We have older members like yours truly. When I have and we have Donna. Donna will come to me. I serve as Donna's mentor, and she serves as mine. And that when she needs to do something, I'm ready to listen to her. And much more often, I'm coming to her with questions. But she is very available, and it's been really helpful.
And St-John, you mentioned that Dana is your mentor. How did you decide to be mentored by Dana, or did Dana decide to mentor you? How does that usually work?
I'd say it's fluid. So we have a process, a kind of a gatekeeper. We have our vice president of education is the one who's sort of first establishing those things. The nature of Toastmasters often is that people in our club, very busy lives, people don't necessarily get to every meeting. And if some time goes by, it could be that we have at the end of our meetings, we have a time when people pretty much all fall together and are just talking about what happened at the meeting. So, it's been a fun time, typically. This is when we have our in-person meetings. And Donna, you can speak about what it's like at our virtual meetings. But what I notice at our meetings is that people really want to sort of check out what happened, and that might be a time when someone comes to our attention that someone doesn't have a mentor, and one of us might very well step up and say, yeah, let me do that for you, and that's how that happens sometimes. So even at that very informal way, Christian.
We do have a formal process as well, where the VP of Education will reach out to a new member to see if they are interested in being mentored by anyone specific that they've seen at the meeting, or on the other hand, reach out to our experienced member, see who's available, and try to make a match. Sometimes a match works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's actually helpful to have more than one mentor, more than one person you can reach out to when you have questions. So yeah. Whether it's a formal or informal mentorship, everything is welcome.
So both formal and informal, great point you make there. It's not necessarily that the mentee only can talk to that mentor. Maybe there's informal relationships within the club as well. Very open to answer any member's question to make sure that they're guided to the questions answered that they need to be able to take on that role or give that speech or feel, just in general, feel part of the club. In talking about mentorship, one of the things that the mentor and mentee do are to talk about the goals of the member. In particular, why are they coming to the club? What do they want to get out of it? And are there any particular goals that are maybe inside or outside the educational system that they'd like to meet that the mentor can help them with? So we talked previously about the Distinguished Club Program and tracking goals. St. John told us about that. How does the club identify and track individual member goals? And are there any success stories that you'd like to tell? So the Distinguished Club Program, you were tracking educational levels that the members were achieving. Are there any particular way of tracking individual member goals that are maybe not pathway level completions, such as somebody who wants to get better at presenting in technical presentations at work, and the mentor and mentee meet up and they discuss that, and then the mentee comes back and said, I had a success at work. I thank you because of the practice I got in my technical presentations at the club. Anything like that you're tracking, or any stories along those lines?
Don't have a formal tracking of members' specific goals. I can tell you that as a mentor, this is something I discuss with my proteges and make a note of and make sure to check in. But that's more at the mentor-mentee level, not overall as a club.
So tracking the mentor-mentee, you're asking your mentee, are there specific goals that you want to meet? You're noting these goals, and then when you follow up with them or they have questions, you help them advance those personal goals within the meetings and the speeches and leadership activities that they're doing with the club.
Yes, that's
I
correct.
see. And that's a great point too, right? So we talked about, St. John talked about the Distinguished Club Program. That is the goals of the club that help members meet educational goals. Then at the more fine-grained level, that's where the mentor-mentee relationship comes in, where you're tracking not necessarily as a whole club, you're tracking individual member goals between the mentor and the mentee. So keep that in mind. If you have an formal or informal mentorship program, maybe you want to be writing down or just following up on the particular goals that that mentee has, just like you're doing when you're following up on the club educational goals as well.
I would say one of the things that we need to do as mentors is, people come into our club with a lot of enthusiasm. They come in with a mission, and then often they're presented with the Toastmasters website, which can be daunting. The 9 paths, whatever it is, the 5 levels, the 22 speeches. And, with all the stresses that we have going on in our day-to-day work, it can sometimes be hard to sort of press ahead. So I know I have as a goal the idea of talking to my mentees about how they envision getting to the next level, what that whole thing looks like. And it's a lot of information for them, frankly. So that, sort of really getting them comfortable with that website and guiding them to the next level.
So if one of the particular goals is I want to complete a pathway, but I just don't know where to go with all of the different electives, different pathways I have, another reason that the mentor comes in to help guide the protege through that, being a particular educational goal in Toastmasters.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're on that topic, I'd like to ask about the educational system in particular. We've mentioned this a few times, and for those who are not familiar with the Toastmasters educational system called Pathways, there are separate paths, which St. John mentioned, and with each path, there's projects and different levels you complete, And those levels give you credit in that distinguished club program, which JP Toastmasters is tracking. And that's how they became a distinguished club, by achieving several of those educational goals. So I'd like to ask you, how are you encouraging members? You talked about being the mentor-protege relationship of following up and helping members complete those pathway levels or show them the pathway that they may want to take. But as a club as a whole, how are you encouraging members to complete pathways projects? And in addition to that, there's the base camp where you go in and that's where you check off each of the levels that and projects that members have completed. How are you encouraging members to give pathway specific speeches and to go into base camp and sign off each of those projects within base camp so that the club can get credit for those educational levels that are completed in the Distinguished Club program? The reason I asked that question, sometimes members want to speak, but they don't necessarily give a pathway speech. They say, I'd like to get up and public speak, which is a good thing to do, but they don't really have an educational focus and they're not really following the educational program when they give that speech. Judging from the educational points that JP Toastmasters has, the members are giving specific pathway speeches and projects, and they're completing levels as well. So is there anything in particular that the club is doing to say, sign up on the agenda and make sure you're doing one of those pathway projects, because it's going to help advance you towards that goal?
Well, that is exactly the way we run the club. It's through the agenda. So when you have to give a speech, there you are on that agenda, and it's asking you what level you are on already, right? So that's a tool that Toastmasters provides. That's the way I think about it. I think people, when we host the club and introduce people, we're expecting to see that material. We're actively looking for it. And Donna, you can speak to ways we help people, I think, learn all this stuff. The educational moment thing, I think it's something you have a special place in your heart, and I think that has been very helpful for people to hear this message again and again about how to move forward within the program and the different steps that are required.
The educational moment is an item on our agenda. It's usually expected to be 2 to 3 minutes in which a member presents a tip that is related to what we are doing at Toastmasters. It can be how to use a certain feature within Pathways, or it can be something they've learned from the Toastmasters magazine about public speaking technique or a leadership technique. We're keeping it short. The goal is to educate. It's not a standard part of the Toastmasters agenda, so it doesn't have a specific role assigned, and there's a lot of flexibility. So for example, if we have a meeting in which not as many people as expected signed up to give speeches, we have extra time, we may allow the educational moment to go a little further. When we have our online meetings, it's an opportunity to share a screen and show a demo. So we are very flexible, but giving an opportunity for our members to learn something that they have not learned before, or teach us something. And every member, even a novice member that just learned something new, can benefit from sharing what they've just learned.
Great point, and that's an opportunity for a newer member to get up and share what they just learned and practice their public speaking. Maybe they are not comfortable with a topic that they have to think up. They can just share what they learned. That educational moment is a very interesting role. Some clubs may call it a tip master, but this is more of an extended tip master. It's providing a more extended tip. Sometimes tip master is 30 seconds, maybe a minute on a quick speaking tip, but this is an education moment. So it's more of a teachable role where you're getting up and you're being a teacher, giving Toastmasters information that is a little more than just a short tip. Now, is this an educational moment? Is this something that's on the agenda that members sign up for, or how do you decide who is going to give the educational moment?
It is part of the agenda on Free Toastmasters.
Okay, right. So I mentioned Free Toast Host. That's the agenda. That is the free website that if you don't have, you can set up for your club. Members can go there, sign up on the agenda, and in particular, JP Toastmasters has that educational moment role that you can sign up for to give that 2 to 3 minutes speech about any Toastmaster related activity that's going to help someone advance in the Toastmasters Club. So great idea, incorporating that educational moment into your agenda if you don't have something like that already. And as you mentioned, that also is a way to get members more familiar with pathways and how to potentially sign off in Basecamp, which could be an educational moment. Thank you for sharing that. Now I want to talk about leadership. All of you are leaders in the club, but we often wonder, how do we get the next leaders for our club? A lot of people come to the club to speak, not necessarily to be leaders of the club. So I'd like to ask anyone who would like to share, how were you recruited as a club leader?
I walked in the door and they pretty much assumed I would be an officer simply because I am a seasoned Toastmaster. But going back to your mentorship bit a little, when I came on board, I hadn't been the VP of membership in a while, and I didn't know how this club did that. So Donna mentored me in how to be VP of membership the way they do it in the club. So it was nice to know that, okay, I could take any officer's role you needed, but I knew I'd get guidance on how to do it the JP Toastmasters way so that it would continue to be successful.
Point, and that goes back to the fact that mentors aren't necessarily just for new members. You said, Kristen, you walk in the door, you're experienced Toastmaster, you're expected to be an officer, and you could still have a mentor that's going to show you the ropes for JP Toastmasters in particular.
She really made it easy, and I have a great process, which I'm sure you'll ask us about later. But I actually enjoy the role more now than I did the previous time I did it many years ago.
Is there anything in particular in the role that's different that you'd like to share with JP Toastmasters that you were not doing before?
They're very well organized. They're very consistent. That sounds kind of boring, but trust me, there's something good about that. I know that we are going to be sending out reminders to our club on social media, through email, to the people who visited us who are okay with us sending them a reminder. And people will contact me out of the blue like, I got your email. I haven't been able to attend in a while. Can I come to the next meeting? And I'm like delighted that they remember us and that they want to come back. And I think it's great. Most of the time in past times that I've held the role, I felt like I was chasing people. Are you going to come back and visit us again? Do you like us? It was a sound of desperation instead of joy that, hey, they like us. They're coming back. This is awesome.
Well, hopefully we can touch on that some more when we talk about membership, because that is the magic that VPs of membership are looking for, not having to chase people around, actually being magnets for people to want to come back to you and ask when your next meeting is and if they can join again. Anyone else like to share how they were recruited as a club leader? Well,
my experience is very, very similar to Kristen. I do want to circle back to one other thing about education, and one thing our club does, which might not occur to every club, but I think it's very helpful to all of our members. And that is when we run through the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, someone's the timer, someone's the counter, someone's the evaluator. We use those times for people to talk about what those things are and why they're important. And then when people are doing the evaluations, people often talk about, again, what's important about an evaluation. It's not just evaluating the speech, it's also helping newcomers to understand, or all of us really, the full scope of what this process is like.
And it's always a good reminder, even if you've been to many meetings, you've been a Toastmaster before, what are the exact goals of each of these roles? And that's great to orient newer members as well. In the beginning, if you're not explaining what the role is, people are guessing who have not experienced the role very often what the particular goals of that role are, especially the evaluator. The evaluator, that's seems self-explanatory, but if you're a new member, you don't know exactly what the evaluator, their objectives are on the speech. And by explaining that in the beginning, the newer members not only understand the role, but they understand the value of getting that feedback in the Toastmasters meetings.
And I don't know what's like for other other clubs, but I guess almost every meeting we have a guest. So obviously they don't have a clue unless we do that. So that's been just a very helpful for me, as well as I think for everybody else. So
congratulations on having a guest every meeting. That is to be commended. That is what we all strive for, to have one or more guests every single meeting, and then being able to convert those guests over to members as well. And I do want to talk about membership, but before we go to membership, I wanted to flip the other question around about how you got recruited as leaders and ask, how do you encourage and find the future leaders of your club?
Often the members that are more active when they join, the goal is to keep the leadership team fresh. Every year, we strive to get at least one or two of the newer members to become leaders, both because we want to give them the opportunity to learn leadership skills, but also we want to keep the team fresh with new ideas and keep everyone engaged. When a member comes in and they're active and they show interest, around maybe February or March, before we start thinking about elections, we start reaching out to members and asking them, would you be interested in maybe taking on a leadership role for next year? And then we explain. We usually have at least one educational moment in which we explain the different leadership roles at the club and encourage members to step up and take on that challenge.
Use of that educational moment as well, as you mentioned before, it can be on any topic. In this case, it's about leadership and what the officers do in that leadership position. Another, Dana, great point you brought up was reaching out in February or March. We end up sometimes getting into that May and June timeframe where it's time for elections, and we say, who's going to take on that role? I have not really thought about this or approached it from an executive committee standpoint. So you are actively looking for that next leader well in advance and breaching the topic to them, so it's not a surprise when it becomes June and there's a couple of weeks before you need to have that election and you're not sure who's even going to be in that officer role. So you have a set of prospects before you get to that election time period. And the other point you brought up, there were so many good tidbits in there, is that you want to keep the executive committee fresh. By getting those new officers in there, not only are you giving them a leadership opportunity, but you're getting some new ideas injected into the club, into the executive committee. If you have the same people on the committee year after year, maybe it works really well and the club operates well, but people sometimes want to see something fresh and new. And by bringing those new leaders in, that will bring that to the club and probably change up aspects of the meeting as well. So all points for everyone listening to consider when looking for leadership and running your executive committee. Thanks for all those points, Dana. I'd like to move on now to membership. We just talked about having those guests in the meeting, at least one guest per meeting, which is very commendable. And to that point, you have recruited 15 members last year. I mean, congratulations. That is a fantastic number. And you could see that you're converting those members that are coming to meetings into, I should say, guests that are coming to meetings into members with those kind of numbers. And you already have 5 new members this year. So what are you doing besides being welcoming and Kristen meeting them at the door like the Walmart greeter? What are you doing to market those members to actually get their attention to say, I want to come visit JP Toastmasters? And then do you have a system to connect with those prospective members and invite them to the meetings after they find out about JP Toastmasters?
I'll try not to nerd out on you guys too much, but yes, they have a very solid system in place. And I say they because I came in not through the traditional channels. I actually found this club because I was mentoring someone in the club through the club program that we have in District 31. And when I met the club, I was like, oh, this is it. This is home for me. But what normally happens is generally people are inquiring about the clubs through Free Toast Host or the Toastmaster.org. I think there's a couple other places that we're promoting that we'll get that inquiry form. If anyone who's the VP of membership knows what I'm talking about, there's something that says you've received an inquiry and I'll have a name and an email, maybe a phone number. We take a minute to contact them right away, like less than 24 hours, just so that they don't forget that they filled out a form somewhere. Usually I give them a call if there's a phone number, if not, it's an email. And we actually have a very nice greeting letter that I don't know who drafted it, but I got it from Donna as part of my training as an officer. And it's really nice because it tells a little bit about the club, when we meet, when our next meeting is, a little link to Toastmasters.org if they want to know more about Toastmasters. And then finally, the last line is, I would love to reach out and talk to you and find out what you want to know. So I'm ending in a question. This is like a sales technique, but they have such a good funnel. We get consistently at least 1 inquiry a week. So out of 4 people, at least one of them's coming to a meeting, either the very next meeting or one shortly thereafter. And it's because I can get them on the phone or talk to them via email. And one of the first questions I ask is, what do you want to learn? What are you hoping to get out of it? So even before they're members, we're already trying to find out what their goals are so that we can be best able to help them. And if they're in a particular profession, I'll keep that in the back of my head. So when they come to the meeting, and if there's someone in a similar profession in our club, I'm going to want to walk them over and introduce them because they're going to have something in common already. So taking advantage of a very well organized system, we have a nice little spreadsheet. We keep track of when they've contacted us, when they've visited, if they visit a second time, are we sending them little reminders if they've given us permission to send them? And finally, there's a very good chance if they visited more than once that they're going to apply. And I have noticed just in the time I've been here as a member and officer of this club, very consistently, they come back for a second visit, sometimes a third visit. And quite often we get someone asking, how do I apply? And actually, after the first visit, we send them a letter that even says, if you'd like to join. When we're in the in-person meeting, we actually have the old-fashioned packet, and I still hand those out to people and say, if you're interested in getting started, I can help you fill out the form right now. But we ask nicely. We're not like pushy about it. Sometimes they need to think about it, and other times they're like, sign me up. It's really different personalities. It depends on that. But the fact that we're already trying to find out what their need is and if we're the solution to that, before they've even sat down and watched a meeting, by the time the meeting is over, they've probably made a few new acquaintances. They've had a chance to socialize. As St. John says, at the end of the meeting, we usually have a little time to hang out. And even on the Zoom meetings, we'll have a little time to talk afterwards. And I love that comfortable, warm, friendly space really radiates very well with this group. It's not like it's concocted. It is just who we are. And it really comes across very strongly in my mind. I get excited when people come to visit because I know they're going to have a good time.
Having a good time, the key to getting members to come back, in addition to welcoming them, Kristen, so many points there. That letter, would you be willing to potentially share that letter that you're sending out to prospective members, that first touch?
Do I have permission to do that, Donna? Because I
We'll
know
leave that.
somebody
We'll leave
else
that to
wrote it. I
maybe.
want to make sure it's okay first.
Okay with me,
don't-
Donna.
I don't see any problem with that.
All
Okay, I guess
right,
that's a yes.
then. I took a big risk here and I got a yes. I was going to say we'll see, but we'll say yes, and we'll link that in the show notes as well. If you're VP of membership or anyone else, any officer dealing with prospective members, check out that letter, because it may be a letter that you want to send out to people who are reaching out as well. And when I heard Kristen, it sounds like you're getting a lot of leads from Find a Club, the Toastmasters Find a Club. Is that where most people are coming from?
That's where I see the information coming in. I don't know, because as I said, I've only been an officer and a member of this club about 6 months, not even a year. I do know we have a couple other places we promote ourselves. Donna, if you'd like to maybe chime in on that.
We get a lot of requests through Free Toast Host. We are on Meetup as well through the District 31 group. We have a Facebook page, but it's not very active. And from time to time, when we have special events, we also promote in the neighborhood using flyers through the Roslindale Main Streets organizations. We promote it through some local Jamaica Plain online newspapers, like Jamaica Plain News and the Jamaica Plain Gazette. So yeah, we're spreading the word around as far as we can, and keeping in mind that we are a community club that started within our local neighborhood. So we keep our neighborhood, Jamaica Plain, as well as Roslindale, West Roxbury, Mission Hill, and everything around in top mind. We have members that come around those areas, also Hyde Park, Mattapan, and it's great to have our neighbors joining us.
And Dana, do you ask guests when they come where they saw your clubs for future advertisement?
We do
Yes,
have
there's
that in our
actually a column
site.
on the, go ahead. We track that. Sorry about that.
Great, really important, because there's a lot of different sources there. This is more than I've heard from most clubs. A lot of clubs, Find a Club is fantastic. They get a lot of leads from that, but I heard at least 5 different methods there, including local newspapers. For those who have not advertised in the local newspaper, maybe give that a shot. Local newspaper, the old school way of putting flyers out there, and going back to what Kristen said, talking about old school ways, having that packet in person that we had pre-virtual meetings of Toastmasters at every meeting, so that any guest that comes, you can give them that packet, or you can explain the membership application in that packet to them at the meeting, so that they're not guessing and they're not having to go out and find it for themselves. All very good ideas. And then, Kristen, did I hear correctly? Are you calling people that get in touch with you, or you're at least emailing back right away? You are calling people.
If they provide a phone number, yes, if they provide a phone number, I work in sales. I won't say what, but I do. And one of the things I was taught is the human voice, big surprise because I'm a Toastmaster, is more evocative. You hear emotion and tone. You don't get that in a text message. You don't really get that in an email. It's faster and easier if they'll let me, and they have left the number. I will call and leave a voicemail. Hi, this is Kristen from Toastmasters. I saw that you inquired about our club. I wanted to just talk to you for a couple minutes. Is it okay if I call you? You can always text me back and let me know when a good time to talk would be. And either they'll email, text, or call me back. Just talked to someone today for about 5 minutes. He didn't have a lot of questions, but he was excited to come to our next meeting. And I thought, awesome. That's all it took, was just a quick phone call.
And all of us can think, and you said in sales, if you get an email and you read it, that's good. It gives you the information, but that human touch of hearing somebody else's voice that's part of the club that actually reached out to you personally and invited you to come to that meeting has a great impact. So for everyone who is not making phone calls, maybe that's something to consider, especially VPs of membership, to reach out to that guest if they give you that phone number and welcome them to the next meeting. We were just talking about guests and recruiting, but just as important for membership is retention. So membership turnover, it's a natural part of club dynamics. What in particular is JP Toastmasters doing to retain members? And can you state any specific examples of activities you're doing for member retention?
I don't think I can say something we're doing something for member retention. I think we're doing something for member attention. So we are, we make some efforts to have special events occasionally. We'll go out after a meeting. We've done that. I think there is a consistency in our meetings, which is very helpful for people. And then this is a carryover from your last thing, but I know that I can tell people they can check out with any question they have about the meeting with Donna and Kristen after the meeting. They're going to be there for a while. They're not going to go away. You have a place to get those kinds of questions answered. We also do something, and we do this every year. I think it probably is instrumental in attracting some new members, but it's another way of sort of getting our whole membership involved. We have an open house, and that is a fun time again. We sometimes we have meetings outdoors. We have we have meetings on the Roslindale Green. So we try to mix it up a little bit. And again, this is to keep our own membership engaged. We don't have any way of shaming people into staying in the club. We understand this is their decision if they're going to stay in the club or not be in the club. We understand the demands that we all have on our lives, and in our club, I feel it very strongly. Most of the members of our club are, they're aspiring young professionals, right? And that they're there to sort of learn tools and to overcome these fears about speaking and to move forward. And when they move forward, they might move away from us, but happily we have been fortunate in attracting new members as well. So.
Sinjin, the use of the word member attraction instead of retention, I really like that. And you're pulling members towards you by their own volition. You're not reaching out and trying to grab them and pull them in and say, be part of my club. And as you said, this is not a high pressure situation. There's no tactics here. It's providing that atmosphere that you're going to attract the members, and by attracting them, putting on those special events, the open houses, the Roslindale Green meetings, things that are adding value are what going to have the members continue to come back to you so that you are keeping their attention and retaining them.
And these aren't surprise things. These are not top-down things. We've made an effort through our vice president of public relations, right? That's Jenny's title, to actually talk to all of our members. We send surveys to them to see if these things are going to be things that are going to be of service to them. And she has an idea that whether these things will work or not. And that I think that's been very helpful as well.
Survey members, something to consider if you are not doing that already. We talked about club goals, planning those out, mentors and proteges talking about their particular goals. Why not survey the membership already and get feedback from them about what is working, what is not working, so that the executive committee can adjust and make the members' needs, fulfill them during the meetings. I'd like to talk about the awards and recognition in JP Toastmasters. So as members are achieving their goals, either educational or personal goals, what is the club doing to recognize those members' achievements? And are you handing out any physical or digital awards, or how do you recognize member achievements in JP Toastmasters?
before I start, there are the formal Toastmasters level awards. When a member, actually first when a member joins our club, they get a name tag. And we do a big deal about that. We hand that at a quick ceremony at our in-person meeting to welcome them to the club. And when a member achieves an award, that name tag gets updated with their new award. So they get an updated name tag in that quick ceremony during our meeting. We also have some informal awards that we track and work with. For example, for a couple of years, we kept a versatility award where we track which roles members sign up. And when a member reaches all the possible 10 roles they can have at a meeting, they get an online virtual certificate that they can show off. And that was a great way to encourage members to sign up for different roles at the meeting. We also have a friendship award, which encourages members to reach out and connect with other members outside of the club meeting. And that's an initiative that Sinjin was leading to encourage us to create a tighter community with one another and form relationships within our club.
Dan, a lot of very creative ideas there. I really like that friendship award. You talked about welcoming guests, making sure they have orientation into how the meeting's operating, and then having informal mentors. This is taking that to another level of saying, be part of our club community, not just in the meetings, but take it outside as well. And actually awarding, giving a recognition for people who are actively doing that. And then that versatility award, filling those 10 meeting roles, that is a great way to engage people. When they check that off, you gamify it in some sense. What role do I need to take now that I haven't taken so that I can get that versatility award? Gets that meeting participation, gets people involved, and maybe gets people outside of their comfort zone who don't usually take on a certain role that need to take it on to get that versatility award.
Exactly.
All fantastic ideas for awards and recognition. I have one last question before we get into the conclusion, and it is about the agenda, and you reminded me with that versatility award. So meeting planning is very important to get members to sign up for roles before the meeting or to take roles that they have not taken before. We heard about the versatility award, but what are you doing in your meeting planning process, either at the end of the meeting or the beginning of the week of the existing meeting, to inform members that there's a meeting coming up and they should be taking and signing up for those meeting roles, so that the meeting is well planned out and you're not scrambling for roles on the day of the meeting? What is the process that JP Toastmasters takes to get people to sign up for meeting roles in advance? Kristen.
Can I take this one? Well, first of all, before the meeting ends, we're already asking who's going to be the Toastmaster for the next meeting. Because if you didn't know that, that person is key to getting all the other roles filled, making sure that the speakers have evaluators, and just in general, making sure that they have a sense of who's coming to the meeting, because there's that RSVP feature on Free Toast, which I absolutely love, because it gives me a sense of who I can call if I'm the Toastmaster, but they haven't signed up for a role, but they say they're coming. I'll be like, since you're coming, we really could use a timer. Would you be willing to do that? Big surprise. Usually they don't say no, because I've asked them nicely over the phone or via email. And generally, it's not a hard role I'm asking to do. So usually members will do it because they've seen how it's done. They know what the role is because we've explained it. By the time an agenda is being handed out at the meeting, it's pretty close to full. Sometimes we run a little lean on the prepared speeches, but I do notice that most of the time we get the key roles filled ahead of time, which is essential. And we have taught our members why it's a lot less stressful to do it ahead of time, because we want to have fun and socialize when we show up in the meeting, not scrambling at the last second to fill those roles, which I have personally experienced at other clubs.
The point, asking the member to take a role. And as you said, they usually don't say no to that role. You need a role filled, reach out specifically and ask if a member can take that particular role. And at the end of the meeting, the last meeting, start filling out those roles. Plenty of opportunities to reach out at the end of the meeting, in between the meeting, ask the member to take a role so that that agenda is filled for the next meeting. Well, I'd like to continue to cover a lot of other questions for the club. We have a lot to learn from JP Toastmasters, but we have to wrap it up. We've come to that time. So I'd like to ask all of you a general question that if people have not gathered the answer already, I don't know how they haven't, because they have probably not been listening. My question is, why should somebody come visit your club?
I'd say they should visit because it's fun, and they should come to our home, our clubhouse in Roslindale. The virtual meeting is fine too, but it's going to be best if you come to Roslindale.
Can you tell us, St. John, about how people can join you in Roslindale? Where is that and when is it?
Well, we're right in Roslindale Square. We have the address. Kristen will have supplied all that to people. We have a meeting time. I think it's pretty clear. It's you can park on the street there. Right where we are. You may need to advance down the street a little bit to find your parking spot. We're available by bus pretty easily as well. And I don't know, what you guys have anything to add to that, or?
Our meeting location is an improv theater, so it's very well built for a Toastmasters meeting, which makes it fun and convenient. As Sinjin mentioned, we are very accessible. It's on the second Monday of the month, and we start at 7 p.m., which makes it a convenient time for a lot of people. Evening. We are welcoming, we are supportive, and we are always happy to see new faces or repeat faces.
Kristen, any final thoughts?
Come visit us. I know you'll have a good time.
Simple as that. Come visit the JP Toastmasters. And at the very end, we're going to have that contact information also on the show notes as well. I'd just like to conclude by summarizing what I heard about JP Toastmasters. Fun meetings in Roslindale. You can either attend in person or there's a virtual option as well. Formal and informal mentors. Everybody in the club, you can ask a question if you have any doubts about how to perform a meeting role, how to give a speech. JP Toastmasters has those formal mentors, but everybody in the club is an informal mentor as well, no matter what your experience level is. They're a very well-organized club. They get those meeting roles filled by asking people, hey, would you take that meeting role? And most of the time they'll say yes. They run through the agenda at the beginning of the meeting and talk about what each of the roles is. So if you've not been to a meeting before, you'll be oriented in the beginning of the meeting or before the meeting rolls about what the role is all about. They do a great job marketing through multiple channels. Find a club, free Toast meetup. They promote in neighborhoods, in flyers, local newspapers. Something to keep in mind if you're a VP of membership or just a general officer wondering about how you should advertise your club. They have inquiries in less than 24 hours. And think about this, maybe they'll give you a phone call too if you give them their number, which is not a bad thing, because you can find out more about the club by talking to the VP of membership. They have a fantastic greeting letter, which we'll post in the show notes that you can use too for recruiting members. And there's no shaming or high pressure when you come to the club. you will be attracted to the club. It's not about member retention, it's about member attention. As they attract you into the club, they don't pull you in with a cane and try to keep you there. You'll see the value in the club, you'll want to stay around. Their special events, their open houses, and even their meetings in the Roslindale Green. So join JP Toastmasters. And JP Toastmasters, I'd like to thank all of you for joining me tonight for a fantastic Club Close-Up interview. And I wish you a fantastic 2024.